Is POE losing players to D4, Last Epoch and other games? GGG would never talk to streamers or content creators. And is POE 1 killing itself and might end up being either useless or unplayable or anything like that within 6 to 12 months? More and explanations on those topics ahead, so stay tuned. So, the topics we mentioned plus more we'll discuss, but first, the initial reason. This is a follow-up video to a video I did before where, for the most part, people had a problem with me pretty much having an opinion. But apart from that, some interesting comments came out of it, as well as, for the most part, either I was crazy or I was fear of missing out on currency for some reason. But we'll get more into that. First, one positive thing that came out of it was that because the last video was a completely honest take, I clicked on the record button and just started talking, which then led to it being a bit hard to follow because it was thoughts that came into my head as they came into my head. So this time we have at least a general list so I can go through, so I can actually keep my train of thoughts in order so it's easier to follow. Now, what I'm going to say isn't listed down or anything. I'm going to say whatever I think and honest opinions, but we're going to try to keep it more succinct. And we're going to use examples of comments and stuff that I got as well. Now, the first thing, this isn't necessarily the order we're going to talk about stuff either. These are topics that we will discuss. The first thing we will discuss is the league mechanic and the league. The first video, I didn't make it clear that the Steam ratings that said the player retention was down was from Steam, and that I knew it was from Steam and it wasn't mixed or anything by anyone else. So the player retention being the worst ever was a Steam created graphic from their player base and everything, and I'm sure over the last 12 months there's been heaps of different Steam statistics, so people know that sort of stuff. Where the confusion came was the league mechanics and what is good, what is bad, what they should focus on. GGG asks streamers, content creators, and also top players their opinion on their ideas. So pretty much GGG creates an idea, does a thing, and then not always, but sometimes they ask some top streamers, some top content creators, and just generally good players to, in secret, try out these mechanics or this, that, the other thing to give their opinion. So GGG, as well as those testers, have to be blamed for any good or bad. So anything good they can be blamed for as well. Anything bad they got to be blamed for. They can't just get one or the other. So the streamers and all that have to take a blame for the Necropolis being bad, because I can't see GGG not asking a single person. We'll get down to this point later because that was part of the comments, but I wanted to make sure that I explained the fact that I knew that the Steam statistics came from Steam and not influenced by anything else. Now the league mechanic because it was the worst player retention ever, I would assume next mechanic that they bring in, seeing that it's going to probably be the last league before POE 2, and a lot of the top streamers, a lot of the content creators will be playing POE 2, not POE 1, and it will pretty much be just a player orientated league, depending on their delays, either after the next league or sometime in between, depending on how they want to do their closed beta. I assume the next league will be the last league before POE 2 comes out, so it's got to retain the people who aren't going to get the special permissions for POE 2. So I believe the next one they will do a more player-orientated league that's similar to Crucible or Ultimatum in the sort of mechanic, and they'll probably ignore a lot of the streamer type things. They'll add the easy loot and all that like they normally do. There's certain aspects that are exploited pretty much from day one, and then they patch it up because the balance or anything like that is skewed. And generally in the first few days they lean towards the loot and everything being easier to get than harder to get, whereas the monsters and all that, the difficulty, they seem to ramp right up and then bring it back. So I think they need to tweak that, so they, even if they don't drop all the awesome loot and the mage bloods through the nameless seer type things from day one, if they just create it so you don't get loot drops that good until at least Act 6 to 10, or even just pretty much lock out a lot of the stuff to maps, not lock it behind T17s, only the real ultra uber stuff obviously behind that, then they'll go better because the player retention will be there, because everyone wants to get through the campaign and get into maps. One of the bigger issues that people had with the league mechanic was that you couldn't block it at all. So you couldn't focus on mapping your character out and completing your atlas and getting it done, which I found annoying because sometimes you get a bad run of maps and you end up with 5 to 7 damage modifiers that make them harder, and you get no reward. All this risk, no reward. Pretty much once you've got a sustain on maps, you burn maps that have no reward for you, or you can't just run and try to get the map rewards from the drops. So that was probably one of the bigger issues. The fact that you couldn't block it out, the risk reward was like 90% risk, 10% reward. And yeah, the player retention wasn't there because you didn't receive any reward, or you couldn't block it out, so you just ignore it until you get a certain character. Or so I think they'll actually go more player orientated, not content creator streamer orientated, and possibly not care too much about that end game straight up. They'll care more about trying to get players to play for about a week and then change some things up and patch some things in just to give some more development in the end game. Now, this came from a couple of commenters that they found it the easiest league to earn hundreds of divines, and total casual players that barely play 2-3 hours a night max can earn hundreds of divines real easy without any issue. Just elk and go their maps, don't worry about the league mechanic, just run it. And one commenter said that they had never finished the Atlas, and this league, they, on a one divine build, was farming T16s and completely finished the Atlas and earning hundreds of divines. Another one said that they are a full-time worker, which is around 35 hours a week in most countries, give or take some hours, and then streaming 25 hours a week on top of that, and they found it the easiest, and they believe they earned well over 400 divines this league. They didn't state how many they earned, so I assume they didn't have the MTX ring that tells you the amount of drops. And they, after a week or so, they quit the league and is playing something else. So I don't think this league was a total casual player's dream. Early on, it was easier to get currency if you had a stronger build because of some of the loot balance problems, which some of the loot balance problems were deliberate because they are in control of the loot tables. They're the ones that allowed people to get certain things way too easy, and if they had tested it properly, I believe a lot of the issues with the high amount of rare items dropping and the Nameless Seer dropping ultra rare items in like Act 2 would have been fixed, but because the POE 2 was pushed back, I believe they were trying to keep everyone happy, especially the streamers and everything, because if the ARPG crew get upset, they can band together 10, 15 of them and create a PR nightmare. Just look at Tarkov. A bunch of them don't play it, don't care about the game, but because they're friends or fellow streamers or whatever, or there was a good paycheck in creating the content, they band together and like a better term, bully BSG for it, but BSG deserves some of the flack that they got. That's another story, but yeah, it forced BSG to change some of their plans because the streamers got together and pretty much I can't think of a better word, bullied BSG into bad PR changes. So POE 1 and GGG, I think, need to not focus so much on the content creators and all that and try to keep the players, because I'll skip down to here. There was comments where they believe by the time POE 2 comes out, if they do not create a more player retentive system and pretty much not force the content on you and pretty much force you to play a certain way, or if you don't play certain builds and everything, then you might as well not play. To a degree, if you didn't do certain things, you didn't earn the currency quick enough, and then everything just cost a fortune for the more popular builds. If they don't change that, there was a general consensus that POE 2 will kill POE 1 because people will have another option, and that might be their plan. Like, their plan might be kill POE 1, player retention. People want POE, people want POE 2. There's probably going to be, between all the streamers, 100, 200,000 minimum, they're going to play that regardless of whether they like POE 1 or not. Just because that's how the streamer communities and content creator communities work. 100,000 to 500,000 people will at least check it out because of the streamers, content creators. Which is obviously good for business, good for the streamers, good for everything, but they're pretty much guaranteed to get X amount of people playing POE 2. But yeah, they could be just trying to kill POE 1. So they can sort of put it on the back shelf, not do update, pretty much turn it into Diablo 3. Just put it on a shelf, updates every now and then, but focus on POE 2. So we covered that, and one other thing on that is another reason why people believed that it was the easiest league to play was because of all the currency destroying exploits and everything that were happening. The certain items like the Headhunter and the Mage Blood just plummeted in price. The Headhunter currently is about 7 to 10 divines, and the Mage Blood, I think, just dropped under 100 divines. So it's about a third of the price, as it should be. So the people believe that it's the easiest because all you need to do is get a Headhunter or a Mage Blood, get a top tier character that all the rage, spend 50, 100 divines on the gear and all that, and it's easy for beginners to do everything. So to me, most of the people that say, oh, it's easy, just build this build which is like 100 divines and then buy Mage Blood and a Headhunter, I wouldn't be surprised if those people actually buy currency off those websites and stuff that you see spammed in trade chat and global. Hence why most people turn trade chat and global off, because all you get is spammed with that sort of stuff, or you get a bunch of trolls trying to bully people in chat. So yeah, I don't think it was that easy for just casuals to play 2 hours a day on average and earn hundreds of divines. Let me know what you think, but I don't think it was that easy. And another general gist to go with that is that it was the easiest to complete the Atlas, the challenges, and the Ubers. It was the easiest to do than any other league. Now, the Ubers, you do have to go through T17s. So these people are saying that they can go from login to completing Ubers, the easiest ever, and without any issues, just Alk and Go maps and run them. Now the Ubers, you do need to farm T17 maps. To my understanding, even the content creators that are doing T17 maps aren't exactly finding it simple. They have specific builds with specific things to take on these T17s. And to a degree, when the exploits were at the highest, they were in groups with set goals, and there was defensive players and there were offensive players because of how hard the T17s were. So, again, I think that to a degree, I'm not even sure whether some of the people actually are aware that you need T17 fragments for the Ubers. They might not even have played this league and not know that there has been a change. So they're thinking that they don't actually have to farm T17s. I could be wrong. maybe it is as easy as logging in to defeat all the T17 and Ubers for 90% of people, like the commenters make it seem. Let me know if you're one of those people that just kill an Uber like that, spent one divine on your build, farming T16s and earning hundreds of divines. Do let me know, and let me know what build you got and what you spent your one divine on, because I would be interested, and I'm sure other commenters and people would be interested to know what one divine build can do a T17 map. Now, there was some where the league is just to be played for, the general gist was 3 to 4 weeks, some a little shorter, and then you just quit and play something else. This isn't this league, this is the genre, and POE is just to be played for 3 to 4 weeks, then you quit and wait for the next game to release its season. In this case, it would be Diablo 4, which is releasing season 4. But yeah, so you play 3 or 4 weeks, whatever you get done is whatever you get done, you just quit and you go play something else that wait for the next game. I personally think that this kind of person is the ones that buy the currency. Now, play 3 to 4 weeks. If you play 3 to 4 weeks where you're playing 8 to 12 hours a day, one character, you get everything done just so you can go, look, I got everything done, and then you quit. You don't actually care about the game. I'd say that probably a lot of streamers that do that, not just PoE, on a lot of games. After a month, they are out of ideas, generally looking for things to do. It also, not excluding the streamers in this, but it also could be people that buy currency, so they get all their stuff easy, they don't have to grind, they don't have to try anything, they just instantly go, bam, buy everything, and they'll buy a character that's already done for them, buy the currency, buy carries, buy this, that, other thing. So within 3 to 4 weeks, you've done everything, and it's boring because you didn't actually have to grind through, so there's no sense of achievement, so you don't want to push yourself more or try to min-max, because all you have to do is spend more real money to go buy fake money, and you got your upgrades. And it also could be the cheaters that manipulate the damage pools and the loot pools, and then obviously the game's easier, the loot's easier, you're getting all the rare drops, you're dropping things all the time. You can, if you're a streamer or content creator, you're creating all these videos where you're dropping all these ultra rares, you're doing it in hardcore, SSF, you're looking awesome, and then you get bored, because in pretty much any game, cheaters get bored in shooters, RPGs, anything, because there's no sense of achievement. Which comes back to the core reason why the league was the worst, because there was no sense of achievement fighting all these modifiers either. But yeah, I'm not excluding streamers or content creators out of the fact that they could buy currency or they could cheat, because I'm not going to say streamers and that don't cheat, because there's hundreds of streamers that have been caught on all different kinds of games and genres and everything that have been caught cheating, and for the most part they're not worse off, so they're still generally making content if they were well created by the time they got caught. And then they just make content and people know they cheat, or they like taper it down, so within 6-12 months a fresh crew has come in and they don't actually know all the backstory of them cheating. Now this was interesting. A few people pretty much said I was crazy to think GGG, devs, staff, or anyone related to GGG would talk to a streamer or a content creator or one of the top tier people in relation to either the league mechanic, the general gist of bugs or anything like that, or give them heads up that they're going to do something drastic, that they're going to give them a little heads up because they're a top streamer or content creator, or just a general top person in the game, that they're going to nerf something, which then by token would then make the streamer, content creator, or the people then do that thing before it's nerfed, which then gets them the profits that from the exploits. Now, one, GGG dev staff do chat in Discord, in, I would say, text messages with some people, but generally Discord is pretty much the Skype of the now. So they do actually talk to streamers and everything in Discord. If some of the top streamers have questions, like when the gems came out in the transfigured version, streamers messaged certain staff members and asked for more information. Obviously, a lot of the time it's, I'm not going to tell you stuff before it comes out, but there has been times, like the transfigured gems, some of the streamers messaged them, and the message they got back was not numbers or anything, but they got more information, or a sort of, this is going to be something you want, but we can't tell you, whatever. And I don't have proof that a streamer messaged someone and they messaged this, that, that thing, but I can't see why in the social media and the sort of quick to hate society we live in, just look at D4, POE does not want to deal with anything like that, with some of the big people just constantly making negative videos on it and getting bad PR after bad PR. I can't see why a staff member or a dev wouldn't be friends with a content creator or a streamer, and then either let it slip because they're friends and they want to be part of that clique, or they're giving them a courtesy of letting them know they're going to nerf something that is being exploited. Now, you might think I'm crazy and GGG would never ever talk to content creators and streamers and tell them that they're going to do anything. But why? Why would it be crazy to someone who makes them money, brings in tens of thousands of people as a whole? Why wouldn't they give them a heads up? It's not like it's real money. Like, they don't care whether the person earns 50 divines, 100 divines. It's just fake money. I can understand if it was a real money thing, they wouldn't talk to them because that would then come back to them and they'd be in real big trouble. But I do believe, based on some of the activities of some of the streamers where they were planning on doing one thing and then they changed their mind and then did another thing that they weren't planning on doing. Some of them even had to either create a new character or change a character to be able to do these exploits, and then without telling people, on some cases they nerfed the thing they chose to do. Now, that could be just completely coincidence that they, within 6 to 12 hours, they nerfed something that they weren't even going to do, and then they did. One explanation for this occurring is that, from one of the commenters, is that GGG, being in New Zealand, all the streamers and content creators and everyone were exploiting these bugs only when GGG was not in office hours. So that meant that GGG didn't know what was happening, and they had to wait for their workers to watch the VODs, the YouTube videos, and read the Discord to actually find out what people were doing in their game. I find that hard to believe. The reason why things happened the way it did, that the content creators and streamers only, and the general public exploited the bugs only when GGG wasn't working, off at like 9 to 5. And GGG took a while to do it because they didn't know how, why, when, where. They had to watch the streamers, content creators' videos and read the Discords to find out what the players were doing. I find that hard to believe, that they didn't know what was going on in their own game. Some of the things that they missed seem like they missed them pretty much because they can fix them later, and they did know that they were bugged. But it could be an oversight because they were focused on POE 2. Now, the POE 2 to kill, we talked about the league or the game not hard part. A little bit more onto it was that the game is not hard. All you need to do is predict, avoid, mitigate all damage, and buy a Headhunter or Mage Blood. And this wasn't just a general thing. This was log in, get to maps, buy yourself a Headhunter or Mage Blood, and just predict, avoid, or mitigate all damage. The game is that easy. And any 2-hour-a-day casual can end up with a Mage Blood easy. Now, I'll let you comment whether you think it's that easy to log in. And pretty much this ties into this. Pretty much log in, complete the Atlas, do all 40 challenges, kill all the Ubers, which means you farmed the T17s. You've got a Headhunter or a Mage Blood or both. And you've got hundreds and hundreds of Divines. And pretty much you've completed the game, you killed everything, and you're quitting within 2 to 4 weeks. That's pretty much the general consensus with the ones that believe this, and this. What's your opinion on that? Is the league, any league, not just this league, meant for 3 to 4 weeks, then you quit, don't play any game, or play some puzzle game or some stack 'em game waiting for another ARPG? Do you think devs would never ever give a heads up to a content creator or streamer or talk to them or listen to them or anything like that? Pretty much not talk to them at all and ignore them, which seems a bit weird that people would believe they would do that. And the league mechanic, what do you think the next one will be like? And do you think this league mechanic was a real issue for POE, not any sort of positive, as far as the fact that you couldn't block it out? The risk reward was 90% risk, and you had to burn maps once you got map sustain, or run maps that you knew were going to be difficult if you couldn't sustain maps, which had 5, 6, 7 damage modifiers that pretty much either did all resistances or spell damage or block damage or evade, and you had no control over it except for if you had the odd all flame, which could negate most of it. So I believe I have kept in a sort of general topic to topic sense. I've said what I said off the top of my head. I can't recall it specifically because it was off the top of my head and honest. So if it was written down, I'd be able to just regurgitate what I said. But pretty much what I said is my honest opinions and what the comments stated and other things said to me. Now, do let me know and put in the comments what you think. Appreciate spending the time. Goodbye.